Welcome, everybody, to your daily dose. My name is Robert, and I'm here with Eli Pollard of the World Parkinson's Congress. Eli, how are you?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you said a minute ago that this is a bit of a transition for you, getting into speaking more about, like you said, behind the scenes. For those who don't know you, you've been running this World Parkinson's Congress since 2004. Is that right?
Yeah, I was employee number one, hired by Dr. Stanley Fawn before this was even a thing. We sat around and talked about the vision of what we wanted to do. And it is funny to think back on that because, before there was the life before World Parkinson Congresses, right? Um, Although it's been 20, almost 22 years of my life, it's really amazing that in the interview when he first met me, he said, I have no idea if this idea is even going to get off the ground. Like maybe no one
Yeah.
will even come to this conference. Maybe the scientists will say, I don't want to go because patients are there. Maybe people with Parkinson's won't want to go because it's more towards the scientists. And he's like, but I think the timing's right. So I think we should give it a try. And then he said, he did say to me, you know what will happen if nobody comes? And I said, I don't know what will happen. He said, you won't have a job in 2 years. And a little sense of humor from Dr. Fun. And I said, well, I guess that means you're giving me the job. So then let's get to work. And so it's been really uphill, just an incredibly steep learning curve from there, and really fun to watch it evolve and watch the community evolve as well, because it really was groundbreaking in 2006 to have people with Parkinson's sitting shoulder to shoulder with clinicians and people with and researchers and other and doctors and others. It's crazy to think that that was groundbreaking. And so many scientists were like, yeah, I met a patient for the first time today. I look back, I'm like, that's wild. So we've been
Yeah.
hugely instrumental in changing that. And that, if that's the only thing we did was make people start talking to each other, that would be great. But we've done more than that. So I'm happy to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. We've been working in this field about the same amount of time. My dad was diagnosed in 2001. We had the first Boys of Summer also in 2004, kind of your seminal year there. And the community has changed a lot. You're right. And I had noticed similar things and continue to notice similar things about that disconnect, right, between people and scientists and the voices not being heard. It's very much at the heart of what we do at Yes and Exercise, right? Amplify voices, and that means communication. And again, how is this communication done? So when you go and you look at doing this on a world stage, how daunting was that for you? You had a background, I understand, where you lived internationally in your 20s, I think, right? So the idea of taking this to the world stage, I mean, that really is spectacular to me. And having gone to only one, the one in Barcelona, I have to say, it just blew me away. I couldn't believe the beautiful international feel. So, yeah, back to the question to you: how was it about taking on the World Parkinson's Congress?
Well, we did that first Congress was in 2006 in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I spent most of my 20s living outside of the US. I lived in Zimbabwe, in Switzerland, Japan, and traveled quite a bit. So probably about 7 of those 10 years I was outside of the US. So that certainly made it less daunting for me because I'd had a lot of international experience and that didn't seem so crazy to me anyway at the time. But when we had that first Congress, there were a lot of people. It's so interesting, Robert. It's so interesting because I remember the conversations very vividly where we had the first Congress in Washington, D.C., and people weren't even sure we were going to do a second one, right? They said, let's wait and see what happens with the first one before we deal with the second one. And when I told people, we're going to the UK for the second one, I can't tell you how many people responded in the US, of course, but that's so far away from the United States. Why would you leave the United States? And I was like, because we're a World Parkinson Congress and the world doesn't rotate around the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And there are hundreds of thousands of people living in the UK and in Europe with Parkinson's. And,
Yeah.
it was far for them to come to Washington, D.C. We've got to rotate. It's got to be fair.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny because people were like, "Wait, why would you leave the United States?" And I was like, "Because we did start our organization with the word world. And if you're going to call yourself a world event, you better travel the world." So it I think, back then, certainly the international communication was challenging because we didn't have social media, right? In
Right.
2006, there was no Facebook and Twitter. They both launched sort of publicly later in 2006. So even that first World Parkinson Congress, everything was done by email and phone calls, which
Yeah.
is kind of a wild thing because now with social media, it's so much easier to spread the word. And all the organizations back in 2006 was very little, if no, communication between the Parkinson's organizations. That's something else the WPC really
Mhm.
helped do. I remember very vividly standing in the hallway in 2006 with the head of the Michigan Parkinson's Foundation, her name was Debbie, and the head of the Northwest Parkinson Foundation is Bill. This is back in the day, 20 some years ago, and introducing them to each other, and they didn't know each other. And I remember
Mhm.
thinking, wait, how do you guys not know each other? You're both running state organizations. Well,
Right.
Northwest is more than one state, but a region. You're both running organizations that are similar in size, similar in scope. You're dealing with the same things. How do you not know each other? Even in the US, the organizations did not work together and did not know each other. Yeah, let alone in an international scale. So the WPC has been able to connect the dots internationally and bring the leaders together so we can align around similar missions, messaging, talking points, similar goals. We've played an important role in that, and I love seeing that evolution.
No kidding. And again, you can hear it and feel it, I think, from the outside. I heard about it. I tried to get to Kyoto. I couldn't. That was my awareness started to come in the teens. I didn't know about it when you first started. You mentioned social media and everything else. But it isn't until you set foot inside of one of these, and for me, like I said, Barcelona was the first that you it's breathtaking to see the world. And the feeling I had, I didn't travel as much as you did, but I did some in my 20s as well. I worked on cruise ships, and one of my favorite experiences was going down to the mess hall and sitting down with 11 different people in a 12 top from 11 different countries. Not, people who are American citizens from another country. No, it's beautiful, but I mean 11 different countries, right? And it felt like a little UN dinner. And it was lovely to see how different people would do things, that diversity.
Yeah.
And what it was going to the WPC was that on steroids, right? It was just, oh my gosh, thousands of people descending upon this place with just so many different points of view. And you can't help but make friends. I walked around with a permanent smile for the three
Yeah.
days of the affair. So it's one thing to have it; it's another to have, I guess, the mood and atmosphere that I think you guys create so well. And talk to me about that. Why is it important to have this? You have a very lively, exciting, energetic, and yet still there's white space for people to kind of unplug to. Talk to me about how you set the mood and tone for that um, to make this work.
Yeah, that's so important. It is definitely, it's funny, the team that I have that helps us plan this, we have a professional conference organizing team that helps with logistics. They're based
Mm,
up in Montreal. And they're such a great team, and they all speak French. They always say this is the Festival du Parkinson, or however you would say it in French. I'm sorry to my French speaking friends. I don't speak French. Um, but they call it a festival. They said this
mm,
is for them. They organize a lot of events. They're hired to do this professionally. And this is their favorite one. They look, don't tell their other clients. This is their favorite one. They love it. They all want to be a part of it because he said it's a celebration of life and the things people can do rather
right.
than the things people can't do. And it that is really the feeling. And I've talked to people over the years with Parkinson's who maybe early in their diagnosis, sometimes their doctors tell them, you shouldn't go to that Congress because you're going to see people with Parkinson's who are further along than you, and it's going to upset you or it may cause you concern. And people will ask me, how do you respond to that? And I will say, of course, you're going to see someone further along than you. We're going to have 1,000 people with Parkinson's walking around this from all over the world, and they're going to be diagnosed from 6 months ago to 50 years. You're going to see John Ball, who just ran a 5K like a month ago at the age of 80. Sorry, John, I might be aging you. I think you're 80. Um, I mean, what doesn't inspire you than to come in and you're 4 years into your diagnosis and you're scared to see someone who's 10 years into their diagnosis, but then you see someone who's 10 years who's still working as a full-time professor, raising their child, engaging with the FDA, and you think, wait a minute, that could be me in 10 years. I could still be working. I could be doing. So it's around seeing that what people are doing and not being told what you can't do. And that really sets the tone for the entire Congress. And I also think that it's not just inspirational to the people with Parkinson's. I think the clinicians and the researchers are hugely inspired by the people with Parkinson's who are there engaging because it also reminds them everyone's Parkinson's journey is completely different. You have to remember that your person who's diagnosed today could be running marathons at 20 years. Remember to, when you give that diagnosis, you're not saying, like some doctors still say, you got 5 good years, go use them.
Right.
That's not
Right.
true. We
No.
know that's not true.
Yeah.
And when I hear those stories, even today, it infuriates me. And I'm like, no, you need to come to the Congress and see that doctor does not know what they're talking about. In fact, that doctor needs to come to the Congress to see that they don't know what they're talking about. And so we really do set that tone. And we try to weave that through, thread that sort of messaging through everything. And I think people really do walk away with that.
I think so too. And you mentioned a couple things that really resonated with me there. One was, the acceptance of Parkinson's, number one, for both the people with, as well as the doctors. I think you're right to accept that, that they don't know the whole picture. And it's so important, right? From the standpoint of the person with or the family to say, hey, this isn't a Godhead, this is a guide. Boz Bloom's thing, right? The God to guide thing, as opposed to saying, help me, fix me. This is a different, the acute model is different than the chronic model, right? And in the
Yeah,
chronic model, we need to understand patient empowerment, person empowerment, really, right? To
yeah,
say Parkinson's is a part of your life, but it doesn't have to define you, right? Like you said, you can rewrite your narrative, your pathway. Hey, let's get honest. It's going to be tough. And I love Jimmy
yeah,
Choi always goes out with that. No shortcuts.
yeah.
However, you're
Hard.
capable of so much more than you think you are. And part of that really starts with, I remember my dad's early diagnosis got one of those, like you're talking about, you're going to be in a wheelchair. It might be 6 months or 30 years. And it's like, what a messed up thing to say. I mean, that
Absolutely.
that's the message you're getting for this unknown, scary thing going out the door, as
Yeah,
opposed to, like you said, John Ball's story, which is, well, look, he's running a 5K at 80, and it's like your future is up to you.
yeah,
However, it's going to take acceptance. You're going to have
yeah.
to start with, yes, you have this, and there are things you want to start doing right now. I mean, among them, we know exercise, right?
Absolutely.
And socialization. And that seems to be where you guys are really, really deeply involved, which is the people that isolate tend to have the worst outcomes. That's just
Absolutely.
shown, right? Another
Absolutely.
reason to do the opposite of what you said, or what the doctor said about don't go to this thing, it might scare you. A little fear in reality sense is an okay thing to go. That's one possibility, outcome, progression. That's the reality of it. It doesn't mean that's now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we talk about that, and I say this is one thing I'm really excited about that I see your guys' lens focusing on, is the use of creativity and
Oh,
art
yeah.
for Parkinson's. Talk to me about the focus you guys are putting on that at this year's Parkinson Congress, because it's
Yeah.
multi-layered. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much. I love that you're highlighting that. So we have always, from the very beginning, found real value in creativity.
Mm.
And at the very first World Parkinson Congress, we had a museum quality art exhibit with around 115 pieces of art that were shipped in from all around the world. And all kinds of art, some visual art, photography, musical art. I mean, it was really incredible. Sculptural art. It was really beautiful. We know the power of creativity, not just creating art, also just viewing art impacts the brain. And the first Congress, we really focused around creativity around this sort of museum quality artwork. But then we realized that creativity, we wanted to sort of embrace the full breadth of creativity. It's not just about things you look at, it's things you listen to, it's the movement, it's dance, it's film, it's a wide range. We want to be as broad as possible and inclusive. So at the first Congress, we had that sort of museum quality art exhibit. At the next Congress, we opened up the film competition where we offered the film competition as a way to sort of embrace creativity through video and film. And we had the quilt project, which were so fun. And then it just sort of snowballed from there. It was like, oh, well, we got to bring in more dance. We've got to bring in music. So we have an entire creativity committee around 15 to 18 people. I can't remember. It kind of grew a little bit when I wasn't paying attention. It's like 18 people, and we have these subgroups. So of the 18 people, of the creativity, we have a subcommittee that focuses just on the film. And
Mm.
so their job is to look at both the short film competition as well as the film room, which you actually have a film that's been accepted into the film room, sort of more documentary film. So congratulations. So that was their mandate. And then we have a dance subcommittee, and their mandate is to figure out what is the opening ceremony dance. We're going to do some dance at the closing ceremony, which is new for us this time. And then we have these performance spots, two spots at the convention center where we're going to invite people to just do performances throughout the Congress, maybe mostly over lunch and coffee breaks, but they might be performance with like stand-up comedy. And we're just going to open this application very soon. So it's not out publicly yet. I'm giving you the sneak peek. And then we have a song, the music subcommittee. They're dealing with the choir and the song competition, and again the performance spots. So we really do, and we have someone who's focused on poetry, and then we have the Red Thread Project, where we're collecting pictures of people with red string or red thread, showing our connectivity within the community, as there's a Asian myth or theory that people are, when at birth, when you're born, you're connected in sort of predestined way to the people you're going to interact with throughout your life. And there's this imaginary sort of red thread tied to your like pinky finger or your pinky toe, and it connects to everyone else throughout your life. And whether you believe in this sort of fate or not, I just think it's a beautiful idea that how we are all connected. And we wanted to visualize that with this Red Thread project. So we've gotten beautiful photographs of people just by themselves with Red Thread, with their loved ones, with their support group, with their boxing group, at their clinic, with their doctor, showing these connections in our community. And we're going to take these Red Thread photos and build out a beautiful sort of display of the photos and hopefully weave in some other Red Thread activities, but we're still working it out. We're constantly churning out these things. So, but I think the creativity plays such a beautiful role in the Congress, and it really also helps showcase the beauty within our community and how art and creativity does support that wellness, and that should be part of your wellness. So whatever your creative outlet is,
Right.
we want you to do it, or if you can't do it, at least to participate in viewing it and reading it and hearing it and that and whatnot. So it's really something people look forward to. I'm very excited to reveal sort of the things that are happening with creativity this time.
Well, it's explosively cool. I'm still talking as I'm letting my dog in the door because she's scratching. It's
Cool, let her
explosively
in.
cool. Yeah, let her in. Exactly. The creativity part of Parkinson's is really, it's dynamic, and again, why I'm so excited that you're highlighting it, because when we talk about an unfixed outcome, right, unwritten life based on Parkinson's, there's the scary presentation of it, and then there's the wait a minute, this is the wake up call, and you've heard these stories too. The silver lining, as Boz Bloom likes to talk about, right? It's not to mistake that, oh, I'm glad I got diagnosed with Parkinson's. However, it is almost kind of a Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life. I want to get involved. I want to live because I know I've got this thing. So creativity, when people sometimes, and these are the stories I really love, have never considered themselves creative.
I
And for
know.
the first time, after whether it is, and there's still research going on, a neurological shift that causes this, or it's an emphasis based on immediacy in life, and they become creative after the diagnosis and they unlock things in themselves. And they're constantly saying, that's not me when they walk in the room, whatever the modality is, whether it's dance or whether it's, writing or improvisation
Yeah.
or anything else, right? And then all of a sudden they transform. That's the word I
Yeah.
love. They become something they never imagined, more than they thought they could be. And these are the things to highlight to me from not just a hope aspirational, but a practical. No, no, no. Creativity isn't an ethereal, ooh, touchy feely thing. It's like it has those elements to it, which is it's lovely to have awe, but it's very practical. I mean,
Yeah.
caterpillars don't become butterfly because of magic. No, this is a physiological process. So it is with creativity and our neuroplasticity.
Yeah.
So with your highlight of the creativity to, like you say, not only observe and enjoy, but to say, that is me and
Yeah.
I could become, that's amazing. And I just, again,
Yeah.
thank you for highlighting it.
Thank you. No, I love it. Anyone who's listening who is this your talk is resonating with them. I mean, we're all artists. We're all
Yes.
artists. There's always some way for you to engage in creativity. I'm married to someone who grew up in a family with some artists, and he never engaged in art because their
Mm.
art was always drawing and visual. And then when we got married, we started studying ceramics and pottery and making pottery. And my husband's a beautiful potter. I mean, he makes the most beautiful flat platters and vases and things and throws these beautiful things on the wheel. But I still remember when he started making things and we literally went to his family's house and he brought things for them as gifts. They literally said, "What? What? You made this? But you're not creative. You're not the artist." And I was like, "But it's because you have told him his whole life he's not creative. Of course
Yeah.
he's creative. He just didn't, it what maybe drawing wasn't his thing.
Right.
But they literally said that out of their mouths, but you're
Right.
not creative.
That's
But
the
he did.
storytelling. And storytelling cuts both ways, right? The stories that limit us and the stories that can set us free.
Yeah.
What attention we pay to them and how much truth we give to them can dictate the outcomes of our lives.
Absolutely. Totally. Absolutely. Spot on.
Are you familiar with the book called The Artist Way by Julia Cameron?
Yes, I am very familiar with that.
Because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
brought that up, and it's just that was the book that transitioned me really. I never saw myself as an artist, coming out of college, and then moved to LA and suddenly was doing this film stuff, and I was like, geez, I like movies, but actually doing them, and it was her book that really it helped me see on a different level stigma about that word. And it's like, oh, you call yourself an artist. I'll never forget the first time I made a business card and it put that word on there, how terrifying that was because of everything that's associated with that, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to unlocking just the pieces and applying it. It doesn't mean you're in a box or that you are, as I always make fun of, the beret, cigarette smoking, sit in the corner. Life is not this, and not to make fun of our French folks. I have French Canadian in me, so uh, but that's where again a lot of us go, and instead of, like you said, embracing the practical reality of the health benefit that goes for everybody, not just the Parkinson's community, but certainly it's a beautiful practical application for
Yeah.
them too, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
well, that's really great. I really appreciate all of that. Now, when we turn toward Parkinson's Congress here in Phoenix, I mean, what should we be looking out for? Here's what I heard, and you can confirm or deny. I don't know where you're at in the behind the scenes, but I've heard over 6,000 people. And if that's not, we can't share. And I mean that the things are sold out. I mean, there was one night that I was looking
Okay.
at. Yeah, right. It's like the entertainment night. I was like, that was clicked off. I was like, darn it.
Yeah.
But
So we're not going to have 6,000 people. I would say that's
no, okay,
been a mythical number that somehow made it out there. I don't know why. What I will say is that we have had record turnout as of today, particularly from people with Parkinson's and care
yeah,
partners.
yeah,
And I think it's important that I address this because this is a question people often have. And so when we set the numbers, our projected numbers, we create pockets of the different categories, right? We say, okay, we said we were going to have 3,800 people. We want 1,000 or 900 are going to be people with Parkinson's, 550 will be care partners, 800 will be doctors, 700 will be other clinicians and care, healthcare professionals. Some will be fellows and postdocs. So we sort of bucket them because we want to make sure, and this is where the magic sauce comes in the WPC, is that we want to make sure there's a healthy mix of delegates. If I have 3,000 doctors and 200 people with Parkinson's, that's not what we're looking for. The secret to this excitement is the a really strong interdigitation of the group. So we don't want to have any one group overwhelm the group. So Not surprisingly, our people with Parkinson's were like, I'm registering. And they just showed up so quickly that
Yeah.
we added more seats into that category. I said, okay, let's add some more seats into that category. There's clearly interest. But at some point, we needed to put a pause on that because my fear was that we're going to have not a fear in a way, but we're going to have 300 people with Parkinson's and no seats then for the doctors to come in. That would not be the WPC. If it were the other way and we had 3,000 doctors and no seats for patients, I would do the same thing. So we did put a pause and a hold on registration for the categories for people with Parkinson's and care partners. Um, we have a wait list. My hope is that we will be able to get people off of the wait list. So I'm encouraging people to put your name on the wait list. Um, but we're just waiting for the other categories to sort of catch up so that we can kind of bump everybody up equally. So if we add 10% more seats in these categories, I got to add 10% more in these categories so we keep that equal balance. But it's a great problem to have is that people are so excited to go. But I think that the number that people are saying 6,000, and this is what I'll share with you, as of today, which is what, January 30th, we have more than 2,700 people registered.
Whew.
When we did the meeting in Portland, Oregon, and we were 16 weeks out, we had around 1,200 registrants. So we're twice of,
Portland's
of where, yeah,
2006.
Portland was 2016, sorry.
Oh, 2016. What was?
2016 was Portland.
Oh, DC was number one. Okay, sorry.
DC was
Okay,
number one. So in
got it.
2016, last time we were in the United States, at 16 weeks out, we had around 1,200 registrants. We ended up with 4,500.
Okay,
So
got you.
this is why people are like, well, wait, if you were at 1,200, now you're at
Uh,
2,700, we're going to have 6,000. That doesn't mean we'll have 6,000. I mean, the
got
world
it.
is a very different place now. People think and calculate timing differently. I don't think we won't have space for 6,000, so we can't have 6,000. We could go up to 5,000, but I think we're going to have between 4,000 and 4,500, which is very exciting and
Okay.
adds an incredible energy to the meeting. But I don't know where the 6,000 came out, but I think people are just projecting and I'm fine with that. That's not a bad thing, but but it's funny that that's people are so excited.
Yeah, no, you're right, and you're right. I mean, it's the excitement around there is a mythology that is built, and this is a nice shoehorn to where we started from you having your initial conversation when you got the job and saying, I may not have a job in 2 years if this doesn't work, to now where you're talking about limiting numbers, not talking about, but you're actually practically having to
Yeah.
make sure that it's accommodated, that it is a World Parkinson Congress event. And one thing that struck me in Barcelona was the excitement around the closing ceremony to know where's the next one. I mean, people, you just burn yourself out for the 3 days, whatever. You almost can't help it. I say I almost can't help it. I get very excited. I tend to overschedule my life anyway, and you guys offer
Yeah.
so many things. I want to make sure that people know there is plenty of time to back away and white space to not get involved. That's not how I'm wired. I just go crazy. So,
Yeah.
but at the end of it, there was no lack of energy. People were so excited at the closing ceremony. And of course, we had
I
the Paul
know.
McCartney thing. And it
Yeah.
was just, I mean, what you guys pull out, you talk about bang for buck and life-changing experience. I mean, I can still see almost the entire 72 hours of Barcelona in my mind. Because of how impactful it was, which just excites me terrifically about what's coming up
Yeah.
here in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And I am excited. And we didn't, and, when we were in Barcelona, we did not reveal where the next one was because we weren't
I
sure where
remember.
we were going. But what I can tell you is that we have already selected the city for 2029. And we will, at the reception, after the opening ceremony, we will actually announce 2029 at the reception. So people
Oh,
will
early.
already know where we're going for 2029, already start to talk and get excited about it. There's so much going on. So for those of you who are listening, who haven't yet booked your flight or your car or your train or your whatever it is you're doing. I guess there's no train maybe, but
They're
whatever your
bicycling. Some
transportation is,
people are
bikes.
riding.
I know. Just so you know, there is a lot happening on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Of course, the Friday before, we have the cyclist arriving, and anyone who's in Phoenix the Friday before, we are going to have a party for our
Mm.
cyclists at the convention center from 9 in the morning till 11. They're going to arrive in the morning before it gets too hot. And we're going to have, I don't know, some fun snow cones, cool things to drink and eat. And then we're going to have a stage with live music, welcome these cyclists, really applaud them for this incredible feat of cycling. Some of them from Seattle, 38 days of cycling. Some from Chicago, I think that's like 34 days of cycling. And then the ones from Utah, I think is 2 weeks of cycling. I can't remember exactly the timing, but really, truly incredible feat. And anyone in the Phoenix area on that Friday morning, we'd invite you to come out and join us in the celebration. But then on the Saturday, you'll love this, Robert. We haven't even announced yet because we're waiting to sign the agreement. But the Diamondbacks are playing a baseball game that afternoon, and we're looking at getting a big block of seats for WPC delegates to go to the baseball
Oh.
game together that afternoon. And then we've got some other things cooking up. We're cooking up for the evening time in an air-conditioned space. So if you do arrive Saturday morning or even Friday, rest assured we have things we'll be offering on Saturday, some for free, some for a fee, depending on if it's a baseball ticket. But we're very excited about really getting people settled early so that they're well rested for Sunday morning to kick off. Yeah, so very excited.
Yeah, absolutely tickled me with the Diamondbacks thing. I was actually looking into that and seeing that their final game of the homestand was on Sunday. So the fact that you're looking into Saturday is very cool. And now that makes me think, because I know I'm going to be in on Sunday. I was thinking about coming in early, and now you've tickled my fancy a little further about that. So I'll
Yes,
have to
we'll
see.
announce soon. We're just waiting to close the loop on that. But as soon as we announce it, we'll figure out how people can participate in that. I wish I could go. I already have something else I have to be at, like a board. It's called a board meeting, and other things, but and other stuff going on. But I think that's going to be very fun for people who like baseball or people who've never been to a baseball game, but just think it's a fun way to connect with people before the Congress. I certainly encourage that, and we'll also train some of the staff at the baseball stadium in our Parkinson Ready program so that they understand a little more about how to work with and support people with Parkinson's. So it's all good stuff.
Yeah, if I mean, I know you've got your staff, but if you want any assistance or hands-on with that, I'd love to be part of that. I've worked with the folks at the Diamondbacks before, and obviously the baseball thing. If there's any way I could be involved, I'd love to, because you're speaking my language. So keep me in mind, and you've got so much to do between now and then. I can't thank you enough for sitting down here and just sharing everything you have this morning. This is just terrifically exciting. And I want to highlight something you said too. People hearing this who are seeing sold out, do what Eli said, get on the wait list. There's gonna,
Yes, please.
we're going to do everything we can to make sure, it sounds like, accommodate and just get this spectacular event for as many people as possible. So many ways to engage, and thank you so much for all your years of kindness, service, and just helping the world connect, because that's what we need. The Parkinson's world needs to connect better on all levels through communication and creativity and science, and say, hey, you know what, we need better, we need more, and that happens together.
Yeah, my pleasure. This has been really fun. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're
Love it.
welcome, Eli.
And
I'll
I'm
talk
gonna
to you
follow
again.
up with you on the baseball stuff, Robert, because
Do
I would love to have a point person. So you
Yeah,
might end up being my point guy.
tap in. I'm ready to be your guy. I'm calling it right here.
All right, I'm always recruiting people, so you've just raised your hand. Now you're in.
Done. Thanks, Eli.
Very cool. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thanks so much, Robert. I look forward to seeing you in Phoenix in May.
Absolutely. You take care.